right, greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to the Crypto Truth, where I give you the truth as I see it. So today we're just going to take it back a little bit. We're going to go back to the beginning and kind of talk about Bitcoin, blockchain, what it is, why are we in the position that we are in, and also kind of educate those who are not familiar with exactly how blockchain works and cryptocurrency, so that they can be a little bit less confused. Okay, so I am going to go back. Many of you know, who have followed me throughout the years know I have talked about this many times. I've talked about different distributed ledger technologies, and we'll get into all of that, what all of this means for those of you who don't know. But basically, I have made multiple videos of this, and I believe that we're still at a point to where a lot of people just can't wrap their head around what blockchain is, what Bitcoin is, what cryptocurrencies are, and why there are certain hurdles throughout the TradFi or traditional finance industry. So we're going to take it back. So many of you who are my subscribers and you already know all of this stuff, I'm just going to tell you to just skip the video. You pretty much already understand. Towards the end, I will start comparing blockchain and then start looking at Holochain and comparing those two, because I still think that a lot of people are confused there, and it just kind of makes things difficult when the media portrays Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrency and all of these different projects as a certain thing when they're really not, right? There's a lot of confusion there. So we're going to start from the beginning. Now, what I usually do is I usually go to Blockchain 101, and then they have different graphs, and then I'll show you guys the differences. We're going to go through that, but I'm going to kind of skip those, skip that. Also, Blockchain 101, in the previous times I've actually used them, but now they have like a little subscription and you have to pay for a lot of stuff. I don't understand. I can literally just do what I'm doing right now. I do believe that other people have better words than I do as far as explaining how crypto and blockchain works. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm also going to use some analogies to kind of make it more palpable so that you can understand the information that's coming at you. Okay. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to start reading, and then I'm going to cut into some of the things that I'm reading to just kind of explain it to you in a more simpler way. All right, so what is a blockchain? So first off, a blockchain is a distributed database or ledger shared across a computer network's nodes. While it is best known for its crucial role in cryptocurrency systems, maintaining a secure and decentralized record of transactions, blockchains are not limited to cryptocurrency uses. Blockchains can be used to make data in any industry immutable, meaning it cannot be altered. Now, that was a whole gaggle of words, but basically what they're talking about is blockchain is a distributed ledger technology. It is one. There are about 5 or 6 different distributed ledger technologies. Blockchain is only one of them. It's the oldest one, and for whatever miracle that there is, it's just unbelievable how nobody really looks into the tech and say, wow, there are actually better technologies than these. And what it's also saying here in this paragraph is just basically stating that cryptocurrency is one of the uses. So we're all talking about, like, we hear on the news, oh, cryptocurrency and all these millions of meme coins and all of these scams. A lot of this stuff don't have to be used. The blockchain itself, the technology itself, which is a distributed ledger technology, can be used. And it can be used in many different ways with no coins or no tokens. But for the most part, coins and tokens are involved for fees, and we'll get into that later. The most important thing to remember is that it's immutable, meaning that it cannot be altered, and that's going to play a major role in as we start comparing it to traditional finance. So since a block can't be changed, The only trust needed is at the point where a user or program enters data. This reduces the need for trusted third parties such as auditors or other humans who add costs and can make mistakes. Why is this important? Well, it's important because one of the main purposes is of cryptocurrency and blockchain is the fact that the block can't be changed. So to give you an example, there are distributed ledger technologies, and then there are just ledger technologies, right? Well, banks use what they call ledgers, and banks have it to where they have credits and debits, and how the old system works and how it still works in traditional finance is let's say you withdraw money from your bank account and you think, oh, well, that's it. No, that's not it. What's going to happen is that there's a lot of, or let's say you want to transfer money across seas, and let's just say it's the same. Let's say you're using Bank of America. Bank of America is over in Europe, for example, and you want to send $50. Well, you're going to take that money out of the bank. The bank is going to record the credits and debits. The bank is then going to send that information to the other bank, approve that, and then they're going to have their debit system, their credit and debit system, updated. Now, all of this is done by computers, but mostly a lot of it has to be inputted by humans, right? So I need a third party for a bank, which is the bank is the third party, to be my trust for this currency in order for it to move somewhere else. Well, with blockchain and cryptocurrency, this is a worldwide distributed ledger technology, meaning that the ledger isn't only obtaining to this bank, the ledger is worldwide, which means that any and everybody who wants to participate can. We're going to get into why that's important as well, but let's go ahead and continue. Since the introduction, Bitcoin's introduction in 2009, which was, this all happened after the 2008, we all know that Satoshi talked about and wrote about, the 2008 financial crisis. That's how all of this happened. Blockchain use has exploded due to creation of various cryptocurrencies. Now it's exploded because a lot of people are started to use cryptocurrencies for similar to how they use TradFi, and then also they just wanted to make a quick buck, right? So they're like, oh, well, this is something new, this is something great and interesting, and people are going to put money into it. So they start advertising decentralized DeFi applications, decentralized finance applications, non-fungible tokens, NFTs. Oh man, that was big. And smart contracts. Bitcoin and other popular cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum and Solana can be purchased through leading crypto exchanges. So you can take your money and you can purchase through the crypto exchange, and you can purchase cryptocurrency. Now, exactly how does all of this work, right? Because many of you want to ask, and this is interesting. I find all of this interesting because a lot of people want to ask themselves, well, how exactly does it work, right? Because it's so different. But if we really look at how our society works, nobody really asks how exactly something works, right? So how exactly does a microwave work? Does anybody know the schematics? Not many people will know the exact schematics of how a microwave works, but it's trusted because a lot of people use it and they're like, well, it does X, Y, and Z, right? Same thing with banks. A lot of people still don't understand or know how banks work and how they use their transactions, right? And what their fees are tied to. A lot of people really don't understand how it works. But so it's so funny because a lot of people talk bad or negatively about crypto, which is definitely understandable, but they still have no idea what it is or how it's used. So let's go. This is one of the reasons why I'm going back, and we're just going to talk about it for a second here. So a blockchain consists of programs called scripts that conduct the tasks that you usually would in a database. entering, accessing information, and saving and storing it somewhere. A blockchain is distributed, meaning multiple copies are saved on many machines and must match for it to be valid. We're going to talk about that later as well. The Bitcoin blockchain collects transaction information and enters it into a 4 megabyte file called a block. Different blockchains have different size blocks. Once the block is full, the block data is run through a cryptographic hash function, which it creates a hexadecimal number called the block header hash. We're not going to get into, and you can see my fingers pointing at this paragraph. We're not going to get deep into that. So this is just it confuses a lot of people. So we're not going to do that. The hash is then entered into the following block header and encrypted with the other information in the block headers, creating a chain of blocks, hence the name blockchain. So basically, at the end of the day, the information is in a block, and then it goes to another block and another block. And then all of those blocks that are connected, which we're going to see the flow chart here, they're immutable, which means that the transaction has been done and you cannot take it away. It is completely, it's finished. Now, this is important because a lot of people try to, especially I find this with the older generation, they're trying to wrap their head around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And they're like, well, you just use a bank for everything. Well, not everybody can use a bank, right? There's so many different, there's so much red tape for a bank, and then there's a lot of transaction fees and overdraft fees and all of these things. Well, you can't overdraft with cryptocurrency. You either have it or you don't. Also, for investments, if you want to use cryptocurrency, and by the way, I am not saying that you should, but what I'm saying is if you're going to use blockchain and be a part of the blockchain and cryptocurrency finance system, you can actually do that and you don't need a bank account, which means that a lot of people, especially back in 2012, they earned a lot of money and they didn't have to be tied to a bank. And a lot of people, they cashed out and they made millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Some people made $30,000 or $40,000, whatever it was. They made this money. They sold their Bitcoin. They received cash for it. And then they moved on with their lives with the 401k, with Roth IRAs, and with all of these other financial instruments that we have. You can't purchase it, number one. Number two, for example, in Roth IRAs, you can't get a Roth IRA if you don't have a job, right? And so there's just a lot of things here to where there's just a lot of roadblocks. And you can't gain wealth. Everything, we'll talk about this in my later videos, but everything is about gaining wealth and building it, right? And how can you do that when there's so much red tape with everything? It just seems like, and I'm going back to my previous video that I made, that we're just all being siphoned, like our money is being siphoned out and nothing is ever getting back to us. So there's so much red tape with all of those traditional finance methods, and we all know we're not getting much from the banks, which gives us 0.000 infinity 1 cents back, So it's like, it's very interesting that a lot of the older crowd, they really don't understand that why is this appetizing for the younger generation, but also why is it appetizing for a lot of companies? And we're going to get into this. So here we have a picture here, and basically it's just stating how it works, how the flow works, and then we're gonna finish that, and then we're gonna get into Holochain, which is a different distributed ledger technology, and why that's important. And then we're gonna go into the guide, this guide right here, and it's kind of matches, kind of mixes and matches and kind of compares blockchain and holochain. There's a reason why I'm going to holochain. There's about 2 or 3 other cryptos out there, but blockchain is the oldest, holochain is the newest. So that's what we're doing here. All right, every node in the network proposes its own blocks in this way because it chooses different transactions. Each works on their own blocks, trying to find a solution to the difficult target using the nodes. This is the first time I've seen this word, short for number used once. All right, so a new transaction is entered. The transaction is then transmitted to a network of peer-to-peer computers scattered across the network, right? The network of the computers then solve the equations to confirm the validity of the transaction. So when these computers, when you do a transaction, all these computers say, "Yep, I'm really trying to make this elementary, so I'm not going to get into a lot of the further things." But the computer says, in general, "Yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. Yep, that's right." So it's approved. There's not one person or an individual that's looking down and saying, "Yeah, that's right." They're all of these computers are on the blockchain, and they're saying they're all agreeing that this transaction is correct. So you need multiple computers or nodes to say, "Okay, yep, this is absolutely correct. Move on." When you move on, the network of the computers then solve the equations to confirm the validity of the transaction. That's what's really happening. And then the transaction is complete. Once confirmed to be legitimate transactions, they are clustered together into blocks. So once they've confirmed that, bam, that's a great transaction. It's approved. It's on the distributed ledger technology, and bam, it's created into a block, and it's immutable. Meaning that information is right there. It's not going anywhere, and you can always see it. Which I'm going to backtrack a little bit. A lot of people, especially those in municipalities and part of the government, they were saying that, "Oh, Bitcoin is evil and it's only meant for criminals." And well, statistics have shown that less than 1% of criminals use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Now, why do you think that is? It's because every single transaction can be traced. And when you go backwards, right, anybody can look into here and says, let's say someone lost $52 million or someone scammed them or tried to take their $52 million. Or let's just say in recent events, someone was kidnapped and they're saying, "Okay, well, you need to pay us this amount of Bitcoin." Why are they doing that? Because they're like, "Well, you pay us the Bitcoin, but here's the thing, you can easily be found." And this is what the FBI did and still does. There's a whole entire unit in which they track these. You can track the code, right? Because Bitcoin, every Bitcoin transaction has a code. And so you can track that code, find out where it was and then you can find out, okay, where's that code? Was that code hooked to a computer, attached to a computer? So literally everything, you cannot delete it. It's right there. So criminals, they just use money. That's just the truth. Once confirmed to be legitimate transactions, they're clustered together into blocks, right? These blocks are then chained together, creating a long history of transactions that are permanent, called the blockchain. Then the transaction is complete. So this is pretty much the flow of what's happening with cryptocurrency. Specifically with Bitcoin, this is how normal. This is how blockchain works, right? Now we're just going to skip a little bit here and go down to where what I feel is a little bit more important, because this gets into blocks and the transactions and the confirmations, because it takes different confirmations, but all of that can take different amount of minutes depending on how the network is and how we'll get into that later. But how busy the network is. So blockchain, why is that important? Because it allows the data in a database to spread out among several network nodes, computers or devices running software for the blockchain at various locations. So meaning that you can't just shut it down. You can't just say, "Oh, well, you know what? We don't like blockchain technology anymore, so we're just gonna, or Bitcoin, so we're just gonna shut it down." And trust me, if they could shut it down, they would have already shut it down. But it's like the cat is out of the bag. Like, you're not putting it back in there, or you're going to get scratched, and it's not going to work well for you. So guess what? You can't put it back. It's out there now. It's spread out across the world. The blocks are becoming stronger because there's more transactions that are being done. So because of this distribution and the encrypted proof that the work was done, the blockchain data, such as transaction history, becomes irreversible. Such a record could be a list of transactions, but private blockchains can also hold a variety of other information, like legal contracts, state identifications, or a company's inventory. Most blockchains wouldn't store these items directly. They will likely be sent through a hashing algorithm and represented on a blockchain by a token. All right, transparency. The Bitcoin blockchain is decentralized, so all transactions are transparently viewable by downloading and inspecting them, or by using blockchain explorers that permit anyone to see live transactions. This is what I was talking about earlier. Exchanges have been hacked, resulting in large amounts of cryptocurrency, in the loss of large amounts of cryptocurrency. Although anonymous except for their wallet address, the crypto hackers extracted is easily traceable. Again, like I stated before, because the wallet addresses are stored on a blockchain, they're traceable. So like you have to be idiot. Now there's some deep mixers. It's called mixers that can possibly happen, but that's like on a whole nother level. And so if for someone to say, oh, well, I'm going to hack someone's account, crypto account, and take their money. Okay, you can try to do that, but most likely, especially if that person is keeping an eye on it, or like a lot of exchanges will say, hey, you have a withdrawal of this. Like, hey, I didn't make that withdrawal. And then they're going to find it. So one of the negative things about its strength is also its weakness, which is that it is irreversible. You can't get a refund, but you can get the money put back inside, or the Bitcoin put back inside. So that's very interesting how this works. A lot of exchanges they're starting to become certified, and therefore they can secure or have insurance up to a certain amount, being FDIC approved. So there's that's happening, and that's why we're looking at the Crypto Act, what they're trying to bring about. That's going to be happening soon. All right, so is blockchain secure? It's going to go over a little bit of what I was talking about. Blockchain technology achieves decentralized security and trust in several ways. To begin, new blocks are always stored linearly and chronologically. That is, they are always added to the end of the blockchain. After a block has been added to the end of the blockchain, previous blocks cannot be altered. A change in data changes the hash of the block it was in. Because each block contains the previous block's hash, a change in one would change the following blocks. The network would generally reject an altered block because the hashes would not match. However, a change can be accomplished on smaller blockchain networks. So basically, it's all, I would advise anyone, if you want to do a little bit more reading, because I'm just over generalizing here, you can come to this website and you'll be able to see and read and go a little bit deeper into it. Now, Bitcoin versus blockchain, because a lot of people don't understand that, blockchain is Bitcoin. No, that's not true. Blockchain technology was first outlined in 1991 by Stuart Harber and W. Scott Stornetta, two researchers who wanted to implement a system where document timestamps couldn't be tampered with. But it wasn't until almost 2 decades later, with the launch of Bitcoin in 2009, that blockchain had its first real-world application. So the Bitcoin protocol is built on a blockchain. In a research paper introducing the digital currency, Bitcoin synonymous creator Satoshi Nakamoto referred to it as a new electronic cash system that's fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party. People are not trusting banks anymore, and that's completely understandable. They have a lot of money that they lose, and they want people to be. There's a lot of money, and you can look this up what the stats are, but there's a lot of money that people are losing, or banks and organizations lose because they can't keep track of their finances. Bitcoin, not Bitcoin specifically, but Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies can, especially using blockchain, and they can do it much more efficiently. But also, blockchain includes everybody. not just a couple, not just the people at the top who want to hold their value somewhere. The nature of blockchain's immutability means that fraudulent voting would become far more difficult. For example, a voting system could work such that each country's citizens would be issued a single cryptocurrency or token. Right. So we've been talking about this for a long period of time. There's a lot of problems with this and why blockchain is having a hard time being applied in the real world. Obviously, that's what we're going to talk about, Holochain, and jump into that. So this kind of gives you an idea. Okay, banks, typical brick or mortar, banks are open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. With Bitcoin and other crypto projects, and I'm going to get into how most of the crypto projects are absolute garbage and trash, but we say with Bitcoin, no set hours, open 24/7, 365 days a year. So let's just say you need $100. And I have actually done this a couple of times before in my life, to where I'm like, oh man, I need like $300. Well, I was able to withdraw that money, put it into a exchange it, right? I sold it on the exchange. I exchanged it for cash. It got sent to my bank account, and the money got sent to my bank account that same day. And I was able to make the payments that I need. Now, I've been going through a lot. Many of my subscribers know that I started, man, I lived in a car. I was divorced. It was just a lot of things that I've overcome, that I've moved forward with in life. But man, let me tell you something. I totally understand when life gets lifey, okay? And so being able to have that access is extremely important. Card payments, there's fees on cards. We all know that Visa, MasterCard they're starting to pick their winners and losers of what crypto projects they want to work with. So you can look that up as well. Checks cost between $1 and $30. ACH transfers can cost up to $3 when sending external accounts. Oh, not only that, ACH payments are so slow. It actually causes a lot of people to over withdraw on their bank account because guess what? Your ACH payment is on the let's say the 27th, and you need to pay something on the 29th. Well, you put it in, and for a lot of people, they feel like they still got the money, but then they realize, oh no, the money is going to come out, and that puts them into a negatives. And every transaction that they do over the negative, right, you're charged like $30, $35. Bitcoin has variable transaction fees. So that's not to say that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency don't have transaction fees, because they do. It has to make sense. And they're a whole lot cheaper than the transaction fees for the card payments, especially XRP and Ripple. You guys can look that up later, because I'm a huge, not a supporter, but I back XRP and I understand what they're trying to do as far as remittances are concerned. Transaction speed, card payments takes 24 to 48 hours. Now, a lot of people are like, oh no, it happens immediately. No, that's just what you see. For it to be fully transferred and processed, it takes 24 to 48 hours. That's just the truth. Checks take 24 to 72 hours to clear, and ACH 24 48 hours. And Bitcoin and other Bitcoin transactions and other crypto projects like XRP, and I'm gonna use XRP as a great example, because not only are the fees low, but it happens very quickly, instantaneously. So man, it's just a wonderful. When you look at the technology itself, you're like, oh my God, like this is great. There are a lot of downfalls to it. We're not gonna get too much into it, but yeah. Know your customer rules. So this is where a lot of people who don't like cryptocurrency or against crypto, they get into this know your customer. Well, you know, when it comes to crypto, there has to be certain rules, because how do we know we're not financing a terrorist organization? Yeah, my biggest argument to that is you're already doing it. Our world, our society is already doing that with cash. And they can do anything they want and buy anything they want with cash. So, yes, I do think that know your customer is cool and interesting, but they're taking it too far, because when you have cash and I want to buy a pack of bubble gum, let's say I have $2 and I want to buy this, I don't know, $2 is fancy, a lot of money for gum. I don't chew gum, by the way. I haven't chewed gum in like years, and I do mean years, so I don't chew gum. And one of the things about purchasing something, and you give them your $2, and now just imagine you going to the store buying a pack of gum, and someone says, oh, well, you bought a pack of gum, oh, you bought this or you bought that. It's like, wait a second. Or you have a yard sale and someone's like, oh, well, you sold this or you did that. What is our world coming to, where everyone needs to declare what they're using their money for, so there's no privacy there? Now, that's where we're going to get into some other things. I'm not going to make this video too long, because I think, honestly, kind of gone all over. But you can see how it's very easy to understand the overall view of why people would want to have cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. But a lot of people who are naysayers, they find it very, very difficult to understand, because, it's like, hey, they reject. There's a lot of people, a lot of famous people. You can look this up. They were either Bitcoin maximalists, or they just hated Bitcoin altogether. And now everything is changing to where even people who hated Bitcoin are okay with Bitcoin, but they're not Bitcoin maximalists. And even the big people who are Bitcoin maximalists are starting to understand that the transfer and the fees are way too high. This is what I mean by Bitcoin is like outdated. It runs on blockchain, which is outdated, and they're still struggling to make that, to make this a very, a very public, transaction for everyone. All right, security. Assuming the client practices solid internet security measures like secure passwords into a bank account's information is only secure as the bank server. And I will say the same thing with Bitcoin as well. It just, it's the same thing. The security thing kind of gets me, because a lot of people who are in crypto, they're like, oh man, it's more secure. Yes, it is more secure, as long as you keep your password. So with Bitcoin and with a lot of cryptocurrencies, you can actually have your Bitcoin and crypto off. It's called a cold wallet. You can have it off of the internet, meaning that no one can get into it. Nobody can touch it. They just know that it's inside. People who watch the blockchain will know that it's inside of a cold wallet, but that's it. Or a wallet, and that's it. They know that it's off of an exchange. So you can actually, there's some privacy there as well, and some security there. Because if a bank, if someone has a bank run, remember the bank runs, and people try to take their money out and then they got shut down, and they're like, oh no, you can't withdraw your money. So now I can't withdraw my money. Are you kidding me? It's my money. Oh no, it's actually their money. It's a note that they have a promise to you, and they're just deciding that they're going to give it to you a little bit later. No control whatsoever. Account seizures due to KYC laws, governments can easily track people's bank accounts and seize their assets within them for a variety of reasons. If Bitcoin is used anonymously, and this is what I talked about before, governments will have a hard time tracking it down to seize it, and that's true. So we're not going to get into all of this. This is how blockchains are used, currency, healthcare, how healthcare providers can leverage blockchain to store their patients' medical records securely. Ooh, but here's the issue with that. There's a lot of problems with using it for healthcare, for privacy issues. Oh my God, there's just a lot there. Property records. So this is great. I think using blockchain, someone owns a home, because there's a lot of fraud in people owning someone else's home or trying to purchase someone else's home. If you actually have your contract or your deed on a blockchain, nobody else can take that away. Like, that's that. Like, your blockchain, your deed is your name, everything on it as an NFT. Your picture as an NFT, we get into I'm not going to get into all of that, but it can be quite complicated. That's it. It's on the blockchain. It cannot be taken away. That's it. Unless it's sold, and once it's sold, you now create a new block, and that person owns it, and now it's transferred, and that's it. So it can only happen through a series of events, and you are the one who hold the keys to that. That is very powerful. This can get us into voting, which in today's society we're having a lot of problems with voting. Right? Who can vote? Who can't vote? How do we track who's voting? Are the numbers correct? All of this can be solved with technology without using blockchain technology. But I just think that, honestly, I think Holochain will be a better example. We'll get into that in a second. Okay. The pros: improved accuracy, removing human involvement in verification; cost reductions. Decentralized makes it harder to tamper it, right? Transactions are secure, private, and efficient. Transparent technology, right? And I believe that it provides the banks an alternative and a way to secure personal information for citizens of countries with unstoppable or undeveloped governments. The problem is that banks don't want to mess up the system that they have now, because they are easily siphoning money with interest rates and just using all kinds of transaction fees, ridiculous transaction fees, and the oversight of money. A lot of money, they don't even know where it's at. You guys should listen to the latest when Congress drills these the bankers, and a lot of them, they're like, well, all this money has been lost. Where has it gone? And they're like, I don't know. We have to run this investigation. So they have to have this whole entire investigation. When honestly, if you look at it, this provides transparency. Now, there are a lot of pros and cons to blockchain, and it is what it is. But the pros outweigh the cons. Now, many of you are like, oh God, this is so much. This is like Bitcoin and transactions, and man, this is all so complicated. One of the things I will mention is that in order to create a new block, they have what they call miners, and the miners create new blocks. These Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin is a code, and they're solving this code. They receive a code, and by solving an equation, the computers solve the equation. They receive this code, and it makes the blockchain stronger, and it creates more Bitcoin, right? By the way, there's only 21 million Bitcoin. There's so many different ways of looking at crypto, but we're just going to look at Bitcoin just so as to not confuse anybody. There will never be any more than 21 Bitcoin. Now, you can break those down into Satoshis, but there will be no more than 21 million Bitcoin, right? All right. So, because of that, it takes a lot of energy. Because of the miners, they use a lot of energy to make all of these happen, to make the miners, and like, they have to be in cold weather. There's so many exchanges that that partners with miners so that they can actually have pure Bitcoin. And I don't want to get into that, but there's dirty Bitcoin and pure Bitcoin. We'll get it, but so that they can have pure Bitcoin, be able to sell it to others, and that's their Bitcoin. So yeah, it's just very interesting how blockchain, Bitcoin, a lot of people are confused. And believe it or not, I'm explaining all of these things, and this is the old technology. Let's jump into the new technology, because the reason why the old technology, the reason why it's not working for blockchain right now is because they're facing a lot of backlash of, number one, safety, security. It's called a trifecta, and safety, security. Transaction speed, secure, because you want it secure, and privacy. Right? It has to solve all of those issues, but Bitcoin can't really, blockchain can't solve those privacy issues. Why? Because you don't own your own data. Everybody has to connect to, for blocks to be approved, which means that it is public knowledge. In comes Holochain. So we're going to quickly go over Holochain, because I know many of you guys are like, oh, in overload right now. Holochain runs a little bit different. It works on a distributed hash table. So while blocks are running in a linear fashion, the distributed hash tables run in a more peer-to-peer fashion. So just to give you an example, and I don't see a picture here. I usually do is find great pictures so that you can see how it works. But there's no need here because we can just pretend like these people are blocks, right? So imagine instead of on blockchain, you have like different blocks, and all the blockchains need to confirm that, hey, it's right. Okay, we're good to go. It can move through. Whereas in Holochain, and how it works is that they're extremely peer-to-peer. And what do we mean by peer-to-peer is that I can make a transaction. This says Bob, but I can make a transaction from Bob to Frank, and nobody else has to know about it. And then if someone wants to make a transaction, we'll just call him Kenny. From Kenny to Bob, it can happen, and no one else has to know about it. Now, you may say, well, how does that prevent fraud? How is that different? Well, it's actually more. There's more privacy there, and there's less energy being used because now we're not having to use all of those transactions for everybody. It's just a peer-to-peer. One person agree, this person agree, and we're good to go. Right? Same thing. So now, what if you're part of this whole entire DHT to where, let's just say it's a voting DHT, not, and this is just one. So everybody, let's say everyone in America have their own privacy code or node or however you want to say it. And guess what? When you go in to vote, it's you. When someone else goes in to vote, it's you. Now let's just say Frank here, he's a naughty boy. He's trying to come in and he's trying to vote, but he doesn't have the right code and it's not him or it's someone else. Well, immediately this person, let's just say it's part of the distributed hash table, but let's just say it's a bad transaction. Well, wait a second. Everyone else who communicates is going to be like, no. That was a bad transaction. So he may or may not be able to fool this person, but he can't fool the entire DHT, which goes back to him. Now, how does this work with privacy? Well, the thing is with privacy is that not everybody is going to know, but we're all part of the same whole. And it's just like, to me, in my personal opinion, it's just like cash. It's just a way to have a code or some value, and everybody don't have to know, but we're still part of the same program. So anybody who's not part of the program can't participate. Or if they want to be a part of a different program, they can participate in a different program, which means that if you're part of the United States of America, you can be part of that DHT. Or if you're part of in Spain or in Gibraltar or any place in Europe, or you can, let's even use China for example. Let's just say they use Holochain. They can stay within. So this allows to have a digital version of something like cash, in which people actually own it. If they want to participate in the DHT network, they can, or they can participate in a different one. So it's very interesting how all of these work. So again, this can make it a little bit more difficult, but it just says, you have the entry here, you have the DNA, you have the membrane proof, the agent ID, that's yours, the entry, and then it goes into how the DH shard works. This is how the source chain works, and a lot of people, this can get very, very confusing. But as I stated before, it doesn't have to be confusing. The microwave is confusing. The refrigerator is confusing. If you're not a tech guy, you may not understand or how it works, but you know that it works. And these are things that where we use the technology, we have proof that it works. We're going to have enough people to actually understand that, wow, this is great. This works. Let's see how we can use it. Now, what our banks are doing and what our government is doing, let's see how we can tax it. Let's see how we can make more money from it. At the end of the day, that's what's happening here. But also there's transaction fees and different things like that. But with Holochain, you don't have to have transaction fees. Zero transaction fees. And so that's why I'm more of an advocate of this new technology that's out. We don't have to go through all of this old stuff where with blockchain technology. We don't. But we're not right now. We're dealing with a government and the parties left or right, and everyone who's followed my channel know I'm neither left or right. Nor right, and they'll understand. They understand. Like, look, I just want something that works. We all just want something that works. We want our privacy. We want transaction fees to be pretty quick, although I don't think that's the main thing. But we want transaction fees to be quick, and we want safety. We want security. We want all of these. We want our cake and eat it too, and we can. How do we know this? Because I can go to Publix, I can buy a cake, and I can have ice cream. And I can put a cherry on top, and I can eat all of that stuff. I don't like cherries, by the way, but let's just put strawberries. I can eat all of that stuff. Why? Because it was invented. I buy those things, I purchase them, and I use it. Same thing with blockchain technology and holochain technology and cryptocurrency. People are starting to see that, hey, I can use these things. I don't have to be a part of this system that continuously drains me of my money, and I can't even hold any value for anything. And there's no trust there, because who are trusting banks these days? A lot of people who are the older generation, they trust banks because they've been dealt with it years and years and years and years. They deal with the fees because they believe that that's just how it's supposed to go. And there's a change in our society. We're starting to see and understand that, you know what? This is something different. By the way, going back to one of the things, the reason why I like Holochain is because it makes sense. Remember, I talked about blockchain and those miners, right? They have these huge mining fields. That a lot of data that they have to have. It's like these data centers and miners. It's like it's so gigantic. Well, with this, they tease about it in the other videos, but you can use Holochain on a what is that? On a simple cell phone, right? And so bam, and actually one cell phone in Germany is already using Holochain, the Holochain network, in order to have peer-to-peer conversations, and you don't need anybody else. That's it. It's just them and them, this person and this person, and because of that, it takes less energy. There's no data there, which means that it's definitely more sustainable for the environment. All right, finally, I'm going to explain to you guys and talk about, I'm not going to go deep into Holochain, but it says Holochain you can use for collaborative apps, platform-related apps, social media apps, relation management apps, supply chain, resource management, reputable systems. Man, and I keep talking, I tell people this all the time, like if we had a good developer that wanted to develop an app for a hospital, how wonderful would that be? Because the hospital will have all of the information that they need from an individual, but guess what? It wouldn't go anywhere else. That person's information can be their own, and they can unlock that information and let other people and then let others know. Right now, we have to go to hospitals and we have to get all this information printed out, blah blah blah, all these things. But from a hospital standpoint, for multiple reasons, especially if you don't need the servers as well, and you have your own server, guess what? You can run the hospital, and you don't have to worry about, oh, guess what? The network's down. The power went out. The network down. The backup is up. But guess what? The internet's down. So now that the internet is down, I don't know what's going on. And a lot of nurses, they have to do everything by hand. It is an absolute disaster. Millions of dollars are wasted. Things happen. People die when the power goes out, or when information, or people, the wrong leg gets cut off because maybe the person didn't get the right information. We're still doing things from an old school type of way. But guess what? If you use technology to your advantage and we use it efficiently, we can now have more secure ways of doing things, but also having the privacy, the speed, the transaction speed, and the safety of the technology. So again, there's so much out there. you guys how to approach blockchain and understand blockchain, but that's just the overall generalized viewpoint. Now, I want to scroll down because this is blockchains 101. They have this whole entire certified thing. I've actually used this before, but they have better pictures and different things like that. But it says Holochain technology introduces a better model which offers improved transfer and data storage. It can be used to enable edge devices, including smartphones, to act as part of the network. The approach gives the network the ability to scale hugely, enables any device or peer to become part of it. Part of the reason what's wrong with blockchain is that it doesn't scale. If everyone's part of the system, it gets congested and the fees get higher, all those types of things. So again, look, this is why I've been talking for years about crypto and Bitcoin, and there, I believe there are certain use cases for all of it. You just have to use it properly without, right now it's just a wild west where people are just investing in coins and tokens and memes, and they're just trying, it's the greater fool theory, a pyramid scheme. They're just trying to make money. We don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. But we're gonna end up doing it. So eventually everything is gonna lead down to the best technology, and it may take some time. It's gonna take some adjustment, and it's gonna take the system is broken, and a lot of smart people. That's why a lot of these rich guys are investing in crypto and purchasing Bitcoin, because they're understanding the value that it holds. They're trying to maintain and hold their value. So that is what's I've taken it back, kind of went over everything. I know this video was a little bit long, but there's a lot more into this. And I just give you guys a generalized view because it can be difficult understanding a different system. But know this, there's a reason why a lot of people are interested in Bitcoin and different cryptocurrency projects, because as I've always said, people are looking for a way out. They're not looking for a way up. Well, a lot of people are looking for a way up, but most people are looking for a way out of this crazy system that we have. And when it comes to currency, when it comes to investments, when it comes to keeping your value, a lot of people are wanting to have their own value and be in control of their own money, because our system can't be trusted. All right, that's it for you guys. As I always say, do your own research, do your own research, do your own research. And last but not least, above all else, everyone, stay safe out there, okay? Bye.